Welcome. Good evening. My name is Ross Tedder. I am the Civic Engagement Coordinator here at One Hood Power. Welcome to our Power Hour for this week. We are delighted to have an interview with Miss Qiana Buckner, who is running for Penn Hill's mayor tonight. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. As a reminder, before we even get into the nitty gritty, the election is coming up like quicker than we can imagine. We have less than 2 months, which is pretty wild. So like, as a reminder, we're doing this today because we have an election on May 16th. This is quote unquote an off year, but there's really no such thing. There's a lot of sneaky positions, both on the county level, if you're in Pittsburgh on the city level, even if you live in a small municipality, there's a ton of seats that are up this year, that are really important. So, keep that in mind, y'all. But we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us, Miss Qiana Buckner. Just a little bit about her. Miss Buckner has grown up, and has a lot of different experiences. She describes herself as a living testimony of mercy and grace, having endured many hardships as a child from growing up in the foster care system, experiencing homelessness, and suffering various forms of abuse. She believes wholeheartedly in the power of God's redemption. Qiana learned to lean on this promise, and has kept strong throughout her life. She has 2 children, and calls her life calls their lives the biggest loves. And she claims to be the biggest cheerleader when they're on or off the field. She's an entrepreneur. She has sort of projects such as Girl Power, which is a mentoring program for young girls, Gifts for Grad, which is a scholarship program, Camp of Champions, which is a sports and mentor program for education and wellness, and so much more. She's also the founder of A Diamond in the Rough Productions and Lady Q Network. So kind of on the media tip, like us here at One Hood Power. Qiana has honestly a ton more here for us to go over and talk about, but I do want us to move in the interest of time. So we are gonna just go ahead and move into the interview here. But thank you, Qiana, for joining us.
You're welcome.
And thank you. So our first question is just, who are you? And what has defined your personal experience?
Mhm. Well, who am I? I am a transformational leader. That's what I love to call myself. I am a mom. I am a sister. I am a friend. I am one who believes in turning your pain into purpose. I am one who loves to encourage, to build, and to help others reach their God-given destiny as well. I am an entrepreneur, as you stated. I have Lady Q Network and A Diamond in the Rough Productions. I am the CEO of both of those organizations. I am a mentor. I have a mentoring program, Girl Power, for girls ages 12 to 17. I'm a sports mom. I have 2 amazing sons. One game is going on right now. I had to leave that game to get here for the interview, which I'm so grateful to be on this platform. Thank you all so much. Um, who am I? That is who I am. I am a person who loves to serve. I serve so many in the community that I'm advocating for right now. I tell people, even in my announcement, I birthed 2 children, but I have over 3,000 in this community. That's the love that I have for our youth and our young people. That is the love that I have for the people that I serve. So that is who I am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being who you are. I
Thank
don't know
you.
you obviously, but community figures like yourself are really important for so many people. So please keep being who you are.
Thank
Um, Question number 2: why are you running to be mayor of Penn Hills?
you. Well, because Penn Hills needs and Penn Hills deserves change. I want to build relationships with the community that much more with our leaders to bring monumental changes, leaving legacies behind for our children and their children's children. Penn Hills is a community like that I like to call a diamond in the rough. A diamond in the rough means it's a beautiful gem, lacking polish and refinement. We're rough around the edges. And I really feel like at this point in time, it's time for change. It's time for our community to become. It's time for those of us that are leaders in the community to become the solutions that we want to see. There was a situation that happened. I've always been a part of the sports world. I've been a part of the young people, the after school programming, and things of that nature. And there was a time a couple of years ago, I believe it was back in 2016 or 2017. It was a couple of years ago. I can't remember the exact year, but there were 5 students that were killed in a span of 1.5 weeks, I believe. And one of the students was it was suicide, and then the other ones it was murder. And my heart was breaking already for the community. It was like, what can I do? The young people, they were saying, the parents were saying, what can we do? What can be done? And I'm like, I'm only one person. But I ended up, we had a prayer vigil at the high school that I couldn't attend, but I did get a phone call from a dear friend and also from a leader, a politician in the community. They both called me and told me the same story, but told me 2 different versions. One from a young black male's perspective, and one from an older white Italian male's perspective. And that moment right then and there defined, I knew I had to do something greater than what I was doing. It was time to make a difference. It was time to step out and be the change. It's almost as if it's like we talk about it, but then someone has to step up to the plate and say, here am I, I'll go. And that was the final decision for me.
No, thank you, and that's honestly a very noble reason to step in. I feel like too often in our political culture, it's sort of cool to sit back and sort of wait for a white knight who's not you, to address some of the issues. But
Right.
no one's going to save us but us at the end of the day. That's
Correct.
just for any position.
Correct.
So no, thank you for that answer. And so moving on to the next question, what do you view as being like the core issues impacting your community?
While we do have violence in our community, that is one of the biggest concerns. It is something that is at an all-time rate that is rising higher and higher and higher in the Penn Hills community. Right now, our current mayor does not believe there's violence in our community. But I've gone to football practice where a student has had a bullet hole in their arm, they were just healing from the night before. We've been in situations, where we see, I've stood in circles of young teenage boys that are crying, saying they want us to fail. I have been during the COVID era. I have been at the Freilich Center with over 250 young people with nothing to do and nowhere to go. We need to create safe spaces for our young people. There's the violence. We need to the education, our school district. We are now at a surplus. We now have money in the bank. So what are we doing? Are we imparting into our young people what can be done? I would love to see our municipality and our school district bridge the gap between between them, because it's really not about us. It's not about politics. It's not about who did what or what's doing who. It's about our kids. It's about our parents. So education, definitely violence, small businesses. We need to bring our small businesses back into this community. We really don't have too many small businesses. We have Dollar Trees, we have Family Dollars, we have Dollar Generals, we have so many things, but we need small businesses being brought back into our community. Our public safety. How can we as community leaders bring residents to the table along with our public safety leaders, such as our police officers and our firefighters, and bridge the gap and begin to work as a unified force? Abraham Lincoln said, you know, united we stand, but divided we fall. So we don't want to, we don't want to be stay divided. We want to come together and bridge the gap. So those are just a few of the things. I could go on and on and on about the things that are going on and taking place in our community. One of the things that I'm promoting on my campaign is local government accountability and transparency. We need that.
Yep.
We really, really need that. That's not happening to my knowledge. When you look at the public information, the documents about our income and our budgets and things of that nature. What is going on? We have money that we're not spending. We do have money that we're not investing into the community properly. We have abandoned buildings in our region that need to be refurbished and created as recreational centers for our youth. Let's talk about the transportation issues. We have senior citizens that need shuttle services. They want to be independent. They want to remain independent. Well, let's talk. Let's partner with our current state rep, who's a very dear friend of mine, and let's get some of these transportation issues taken care of. So those are some of the things that I
Yeah.
see. Like I said, I can go on and on and on and on, but
No. No.
those are just a few. I know that seems like a lot, but that's just a few.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, you're right on both counts, right? It is a lot, but it's a shame that that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean? And
Right.
not just the story of Penn Hills, but the story of a lot of places.
Yeah.
So so thank you for outlining those issues, and what I understood from that is just violence, the denial of violence, is another problem. The need for spaces, that exist outside of school and home, and other places where things can happen. Um, how does running for mayor put you in a position to alleviate those issues? And who else slash what else do you need besides just your position?
So putting myself in being put in the position of mayor, it creates a lot. Being mayor, one of the first things that I would love to do is create partnerships, build relationships with not just community leaders of Penn Hills, but other community leaders. Bring everybody to the table, our residents included, to find out what must be done. It doesn't take me as a mayor; it takes all of us. Whether I'm the mayor, whether I'm the single mom, whether I'm the working father, whether I'm just an elder in the community, it's going to take all of us. Some of those relationships that I would like to build, bringing more resources into the community. How can we partner with other organizations, other nonprofit organizations, or even I was talking to a director at the University of Pittsburgh, and we were even talking about bridging the gap and bringing maybe a satellite campus to Pitt so that students don't have to go all the way to Oakland because of our bus service. They can have a satellite campus right here on the east end for the University of Pittsburgh. I believe they have one in Greensburg, but we need one right here. So just building those relationships. That's how it starts. Building those relationships. It's not going to take me just being the mayor to make this happen, but it's going to take all of us that are passionate and that want to serve the community and that want to see us, all of us thrive and do better. It's going to take all of that.
100%, 100%. I guess like what sort of mechanisms do you think they might already exist? What sort of mechanisms do you think are needed to bring people together in that way?
Communication.
Communication.
Communication. That's the biggest thing. And I think communicating from a place of understanding. Penn Hills has been ran by a good old boy system for so long. And the same people have been in office. You have older people, we need to come to the table and let them know, hey, thank you for what you've done, but let's pass the torch and let's take it from here. And that I think that takes a level of communication. It takes a level of understanding. It takes a level of just being. How do I want to? I want to say this word without saying this word. Someone who's not afraid. To stand up and say, listen, this is what we need. This is where we're going to go. This is the direction that we go to. So unapologetically, and unapologetically, just confidence and just not being afraid. Letting people know I'm here. I'm here for change, and we're not going anywhere. So guess what? We all got to come to the table. Like that communication is huge.
Yeah.
Communication, and I tell people all the time, communication is just not talking. It's not talking at you. It's not talking to you, but it's talking with you again from a level of understanding, but also listening to your point of view. So it's going to take that I think that's one of the major things. Getting a greater level of communication from a place of understanding, at bringing that to the table first.
Yeah. So thank you, and I really appreciate that perspective for sure. And even what you said earlier about the Italian lady versus the other lady. I think we all have different perspectives, but at the end of the day, a lot of us are facing the same issues, and that's what it's really
Right.
about. So,
Right.
um, so yeah. So the next question you kind of touched about in your opening. I'm going to ask it again though, and with a different twist. Like, what for you has sort of defined your personal lived experience? And how does that experience, right, and the way that you process that, how does it impact your approach to the office?
You said my personal lived experience. I'm
Hmm.
sorry.
Live.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, um, as I said before, I grew up in foster care. I was in the foster care system from the age of 9 all the way up until I aged out at the age of 18. At the age of 18, I became homeless and I moved around house to house, shelter to shelter, until I went to college at Penn State University. And then I landed a job and I worked, got my own place, and then I got married at the age of 26. So, you know, I think my lived experience, and I've lived a lot. I've had a very full life. I had a full life at the age of 18. I had gone through more than a woman who was 3 times my age by the time I had turned 18. And I feel like one of the things that I've always learned is you have to turn your pain into purpose. The company that I have, like for example, my Girl Power, my mentoring program, that's from experience. I teach young girls and I teach women how to become their highest self using the butterfly and the diamond as a synopsis. So that's lived experience. Leadership. It has taught me leadership. It has taught me, my life has taught me to be resilient. My life has taught me, I mean, they say experience is the best teacher. And I tell people all the time, you can't tell someone that ice cream is sweet and you've never tasted it. I'm a black woman. I'm a single mom. I'm all of these things, but I'm also the face of this community because everything that someone has gone through, I can relate to and say, hey, I mean, since I've made my announcement, so many people have walked up to me and said, thank you. You're the face. They've heard my story like, wow, I've gone through that, or thank you for sharing that because I'm silently dealing with this. So, my lived experience has, caused me to grow into the woman that I am today. I would never change my story. There's nothing about my story that I would change. I tell people all the time, my story, God's story. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Butterflies cannot fly free and become the beautiful edifice that they are unless they break out of the cocoon. So, I feel like, if I can relate it to those two things, that's how I can relate my lived experience to approaching this race uh, for mayor. Just the leadership qualities and capabilities that, life has taught me. Life has taught me to be, again, resilient. Life has taught me to love people. The position that I'm in, it's caused me to love to serve. I love to serve people um, regardless. It's life has taught me, there's no big I's, there's no little U's, but we all win. Together, each achieves more. Like I said, I can't win this race and do this by myself, but we have to be a team. I have to partner with my community, the residents, the leaders, all the council. I have to partner with everybody, and say together we can do this. And so that's what my life experiences has taught me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Um, yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot, man. I'm just listening that myself and just taking that in. So thank you for sharing that.
Hmm.
Um, on both, the state and the federal level, over the past like 40 to 50 years, right? This region as a whole has seen a lot of change, right? My grandparents came here from the South, for better jobs, that existed at the time, right? In a lot of ways, like those have gone away, right? That's changed the entire complexion of Pittsburgh, of Allegheny County. On both the state and the federal level, right? What policies have sort of defined Penn Hills over the past, couple decades, both positively and negatively?
Um, that's a good question, actually. I feel like, excuse me, I've been told since I've made this announcement, Penn Hills has been on an island by itself. People have said, where's the collaboration? Penn Hills pretty much has done its own thing, but I think, I'm actually a part of a group called the Black Woman's Policy Agenda. The policies that relate to the early childhood education rules that are taking place, that has truly affected us. It's really helped, so to speak, but there's more that can be done for early childhood education, not just, like you said, not just in our region, but in every region. I think policies as it relates to one of the things that I want to get to is, the domestic violence and things of that nature. Um, I remember being a domestic violence survivor, and I didn't even know what domestic violence was at the time, and it was right here in Penn Hills. And I went to the police, and they said, "Oh, well, she's going to go back to him anyway, so we're not going to charge him." And I'm like, "What?" And so just being more vocal in areas such as that protect women and that protect their rights, as survivors in that arena. So on the smaller level, I think again one of the biggest is we have so many daycares in Penn Hills, and so we have a lot of daycares in Penn Hills. Almost, I want to say almost on every corner you can find a daycare in Penn Hills, be a church or whatever. But that early childhood education policy, when we were going through that and we were digging through that, it really hit home for me right here in our community, because so many changes have been made to expand, but there are things that could be done to increase and improve that.
So, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, as you sort of talked about, right? You talked about Penn Hills being on an island, which is funny because to me, right, I see Penn Hills as being sort of like the gateway from the city to the rest of the county. And I spent some time
Hmm.
about that. Um, it's one of the areas in the eastern part of the county that has received a lot of families and individuals, but families
Hmm.
too, impacted by gentrification in the city proper. Um, what do you think is already being done to foster, community amongst your residents? And like, what do you think this pattern of people moving in from the city and from other places means for the longevity of Penn Hills?
I think it's great for the longevity of Penn Hills. I do love to see the new families, the new faces coming in, but it's a shame that they're being driven out of the current communities that they're used to, that they live in. So it's kind of like a two-edged sword, so to speak, if I can say that for lack of a better term. But I will say, Penn Hills is the second largest municipality in Allegheny County, with Pittsburgh being the first. Um, we had, well, when I first moved to Penn Hills, there were 48,000 residents. Now there are 41,000. 41, probably like maybe 41,132, something around that number. We are the second largest municipality to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has 333,000 residents. That speaks volumes. You hit the nail on the head when you say Penn Hills is kind of like the gateway to the other communities. But I think with the gentrification happening, we need to, with the families that are coming in, what are the needs of those families? Why are they migrating to Penn Hills? Because they don't have to migrate to Penn Hills. They can migrate anywhere in the county, but why are they coming to Penn Hills? What is it that they see in our community that we can do for them? And when we look at those families, what is the needs of those families that are coming in? I think that's what has to be looked at, as a whole from a leadership standpoint. Is it more childcare? Is it more jobs? Is it more mental health resources or organizations that we can provide? I mean, what type of families are coming in? Are they, you know, families with children where we can provide more after school programming or, things of that nature? I think it's really sitting down and looking at the needs of the people, taking the survey, doing the data, finding out what the needs are, and meeting those needs as a whole from a local government standpoint.
Yeah. Are there any particular needs that have been voiced by new residents?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. A lot. They want to see. A lot of the things that I hear, and I won't say them all because this is not a
The public
there.
forum.
Yeah, I don't want to just, one of the things that they say, when I introduce myself, we did door knocking today. And a lot of the questions is, I didn't know Penn Hills has a mayor. Or you got a mayor? And I'm like, yeah, but that's not the issue. There are needs for the biggest need because we have a very, very, very high population of young people from age pre-K all the way up to seniors in high school. There's a need for us to better serve them in this community. They have nowhere to go. They
Mhm.
have nothing to do. Our boys, when they're not doing their after school sports, they're going to other communities like Oakmont that are close by and playing basketball in their gyms. They are, they're doing other things outside of our community. We have kids that live in Penn Hills but do things in the Keysport. They may even go to school in other communities, and we don't want that. We want them to come back home. We want to offer them something. We want to offer programs for our single moms. There's affordable housing. We need to do that. Our median right now is about $100,000 for a home, but you have homes in Penn Hills that are selling for over 200,000.
Mhm.
And it's just like, how can we become a place, a region, so to speak, excuse me, how can we become a region where we offer programs for first time home buyers and create, affordable housing and reasonable prices so that the families can not just come here and move here, but they can survive here? What type of programs are we offering as far as mental health and stability? Because no one wants to be moved out of their house due to gentrification. That takes a toll on us mentally and emotionally. What type of services can we provide? Do we, bring in more programming? Do we partner with the federal and the state level to bring in resources for mental health and counseling and things of that nature? So there's a lot that needs to be done. But the biggest thing that I hear is the safe spaces for the youth. I'm going to drink some tea because my throat's starting to dry. Sorry about that.
You're good, man. We love tea. We love tea around here.
Yeah, it's a green tea. So, but yeah, excuse me. So, but that is one of the biggest things that I hear. The young people and small businesses, excuse me, small businesses, bringing them back into our community. That's how we begin to thrive again. Small businesses have been the foundation of our nation, to be honest with you. And we need to bring small businesses back into our community. So that's another thing.
Yeah.
Because
No,
we
100%.
literally we have Family Dollars and Dollar Generals on every corner almost.
Yeah, yeah, no, and there's a lot of research that says that, when those places move in, it's actually to the detriment of the community, in a lot of ways. Obviously, that's a threat to the mom and pop shops, but long term, right, that ends up being a place that developers say, like, oh, you know what? This community of like 20,000, 30,000 Black people doesn't need a new restaurant. They already have Family Dollar, Dollar General. Well, that's not
Right,
nutrients. That's not food,
right.
So it's a very common issue. But um, moving on, like we talked about this in the beginning, like really broke my heart hearing some of the stories you're talking about the young Black men and talking about folks wanting them to fail. Um, what issues are facing Penn Hill schools, and how do these issues impact, in particular, Black students?
Whew, you will get me in trouble. No. What issues are facing our school district? Lack of empathy is one of the biggest things. Um, I hear a lot of times, I hear people say, now we don't have a lot of Black teachers. We really don't. But I don't think that's an issue. You hear a lot of people say, oh, we want the students to see people like us. Me personally, as an educator, as someone who advocates for education, I don't care what color the teacher is, as long as they're passionate about seeing the success of our students and they're willing to push that student to their full potential, that's fine. But I feel like, one of the things that we have in our school district right now, the police. The police are at our school. They bring dogs for, to sniff out lockers and things of that nature. That's affecting the Black students. I really feel like you know, a student will get in trouble and get suspended, but is an out of school suspension really the answer to solving a problem? I'm the type of person, adult, who likes to figure out what's wrong. Let's talk about this. Let's get to the root of the problem, because if we get to the root of the problem, then we will be able to fix the situation. I have a son who has a 504 plan, and I have another son who has an IEP plan, both in the district. And, there was a point in time, if I didn't know how to handle that, or if I didn't know the rules behind that, nothing would be done. So I really feel like, more hands on issues, more hands on with issues such as that. I really feel like, um, just there's a strong lack of empathy in our school, and again, going back to what I said before, people talk and talk and talk and talk. I was at a meeting and I heard someone say, well, we have this much money in the bank. I took the school from a deficit, because the Penn School District was in a deficit, $17 million deficit. That was at no fault of the children, was at no fault of the teacher. But people were taking money from our school district. That affected our students. That affected their programming. That affected everything. We built the new school. But now we have a ton of money in the bank, and we also have a surplus. But none of that money is being filtered into the school for the kids. There's no programming. There's no programs being offered. I do know that our superintendent, she did just start an after school program. But until I see data on how effective that program was, I need facts, and I feel like, there's really no data collected on our students to figure out what their needs are and how we meet them strategically. And so I feel like there's so many problems within our school district. And that's one of the reasons why a part of my policy and my agenda is to bridge the gap between the municipality and the school district. We need to build that relationship, because right now there is none. They're separate, literally, and there is no relationship. We need to get over ourselves and come together for the future of these kids.
Yeah. No, I mean, you talk about a lack of empathy, and that really rings true. And I think that goes deeper than I think a lot of people realize. And just someone in that position of power lacking empathy is can spell detrimental results for a really long time for a lot of people. So,
Yeah. I think that, when I say lack of empathy, like you said, it goes such a long way, because, you say, oh, hey, we're here for the kids. We want to help, we want to see them do better. But then you continue to put them in a position where the kids themselves think they're being set up for failure.
yeah,
you know when you're hiring, look at who you're hiring into our school district. Do background checks, real background checks. Check with other leaders that have ran into these individuals that are you know being hired in our school district. As someone who has done interviews, as someone who has hired educators, I don't just look at your qualifications. I don't just look at what you have on the paper. I need to know who you are as an individual. I just, like I said, there's so much. I mean, it's always been politics, 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 even in our school district.
hmm
It's time out for politics. My friend who said people over politics. And I'm standing firm on that, people over politics, students over politics,
hmm
as leaders in education. It's not about us. One of my favorite educators, um, Dr. I think her name, I always mess up her first name, it's like Bertina or something like that. She said, education can't save us. We have to save education. And that's how I feel.
yeah,
We can't, it can't save us. We have to make sure we save education so that our kids are being successful at every level, from
yeah,
the time they wake up to get to the school to the time they leave. I already have some things set in place that I'm doing. We're creating something called the Penn Hills Parent Initiative, because I hear from the administrators and they say, well, we have lack of parent involvement. It does begin in the home. I get that. So, okay, what's the solution to that? Let's get these parents involved. I'm a parent. I have access to the parents. So I love the parents, they love me. So let's get together and let's create a parent initiative and do everything that they're requiring us to do from A to Z, making sure we are present, making sure we know on the schedule, if there's a PTA, if there's a board meeting, whatever it is, what can we do? How can we get more volunteers into the school as parents? Um, and there's just so much. Um, there's a lot of fighting going on in our schools. There's a lot of drug use in our schools. There is so much. Um, wow, that's such a question.
Yeah, no,
It is such a
yeah,
question. I feel
yeah,
like with we've had so far, we've had kids overdosing in the bathroom. We've had they take the cell phones away, but yet and still the kids still find a way to get on their cell phones and call parents or call their friends. There's just so much, and so we just it affects us. It affects us, and we have to be the solution. So that means coming up with creative ways to strategize and how to do better as parents.
100%, 100%. No more waiting for Superman. Um, so the next question, sort of pivoting from the schools, although this does apply to schools too. Um, how do you feel about the idea of like changing, municipal tax structure in order to increase, funding for local government, right? Penn Hills is an area that has a lot of commercial business that a lot of folks come through. Is there any way that you think to sort of utilize that to the benefit of the community?
The beginning of that question kind of cut out for me. You said tax structure. I
Tax
didn't hear
structure, yeah,
cut
yeah,
off a little bit. So can you repeat that for me?
absolutely, yeah. So how do you feel about the idea of changing local tax structure in order to increase, funding for Penn Hills, and in what ways is that possible?
Um, Taxes in Penn Hills are already extremely high. Um, my goal is to not increase taxes. I mean, is there a way? If there was a way to get around that, absolutely, we would try. But that's just something that we have to come to the table as as a municipality, the council, our manager, and the people. We have to really look at our budget and say, can do we need to do this? Can we do this? How can we do this in a way where it doesn't affect the people negatively? How can we do it in such a way and communicate it to where they have an understanding as to why? And not only have an understanding as to why, but see the results of their tax dollars being used effectively in our community.
My apologies, y'all. Have these technical difficulties back here. Um, Thank you for that, and I appreciate your answer with regard to not putting a burden on more people. That is a real concern too.
Yeah,
Um,
we don't
you
want
know,
to do that. We don't want. I feel like we have and that's a part of creating strategic relationships and partnering with other organizations and bring more resources into our municipality.
100%. Um, so, a key function of any local mayor, and in fact, in some places in Allegheny County, this is like their only power. Um, but a key function is to exercise control over the police, right?
Mhm.
What would you say is the existing dynamic between Penn Hills residents and police? Um, what concerns have been raised, regarding that dynamic, and
Mhm.
what can a mayor do to address those concerns?
Well, the way that the Penn Hills community is ran right now, and I'm saying right now because I am not in office yet, I will be, but the way that the municipality is ran right now, so you have the hierarchy, the community, the people is right at the top. We are at the top of the food chain, the people, the community. Underneath the people is the mayor and council. Underneath the mayor and council, you have the municipal manager and other positions like that. And under the municipal manager, you have the police. So they have left. It's a municipality because we are a home rule charter or community. We have left the organizational structure and the dealings with the police and the police chief. under the tutelage of the municipal manager. I don't think that should occur right now. I feel like the dynamic between the police and the community, it's not it's not it, it's not bad, if I can say it like that, for lack of a better term. In my experience, and from what I've seen, from what I've heard, it's not bad. It can always be better. I know there was a situation, and actually this question has been brought to me. The police officer who killed Romare Talent, he was in Wilkinsburg, then he got hired by the Penn Police. And then we did all this rallying and we spoke and we got justice. He was fired only to be rehired. So he currently sits on the police force. And so, how do we do that? My goal is one of the things that I would love to do is to partner with Leon Ford. He has a organization called the Here Foundation, and it's the only foundation of its kind to bridge the gap between the police officers, the community leaders, and the residents of the community. And how we can talk about, we can teach the people their rights, but also teach the police officers their responsibility when it comes to handling a community. I would love to sit down and gain insight. I've actually spoken to some of the police officers who have expressed to me that they want to be more active and more effective in the community. Right now, they're like, well, we don't do nothing. We don't know anything about events. We don't do nothing. We would love to get out there and be a part of what's going on with the young people. We want to, you know, my sons, for example, we were at an Eat Park restaurant. They were about maybe 8 and 9. We were with their friends. They had just come from a baseball game. Two police officers walked in, and the entire team ran and hid under the seats. That shouldn't be. So, how do we bridge that gap between the police officers and the community? That is something that we will definitely be bringing to the table. Offer more professional developments to our police officers, as well as the chief of police, and the leaders in that retrospect, so that they can get a better understanding of the community that they serve. You can't just, um, we don't handle a lot of things. A lot of the things with the police, Penn Police, they go to the county. But even in that retrospect, we still need to bridge the gap between the community. And what does that look like? Does that look like maybe holding more events where we have coffee and conversations with the cops? Things of that nature. Bring the community together. They can ask any questions. They can, just talk to the police, have one-on-one conversations so that they can find out what our needs are as a community, and even what their needs are as law enforcement.
Yep. No, 100%. 100%. So next question, in regards to transportation, we now have Pittsburgh Regional Transit. As those of us who used it prior to last year know, it used to be called
Yeah.
Port Authority, good old Port Authority. So they're in the midst of restructuring, and as always, they're considering possible expansion of certain routes, outside the city, which becomes especially important with the past 10 years of population shifting in Allegheny County. Um, how would a possible, expansion of, the transit system impact your community? And I mean that
Wow.
both positively and negatively, right? And as a mayor, how would you advocate for or against expansion?
I would absolutely advocate for expansion. We need that. Penn Hills is, you need a car to get around in this neighborhood. We used to have a shuttle bus in Penn Hills years and years and years ago. When I first came to Penn Hills, I was about 19. We used to have a shuttle bus that just drove in the community. I would absolutely advocate for, we have maybe 1 to 2 bus routes. The express buses run real early in the morning, from like 5 in the morning to like 9, and then they'll run again during rush hour. Then there's this one bus. I think it used, I haven't read it in so long. It used to be called the 77B. It might be called the 77 now, but it literally goes from Boyce Campus all through Penn Hills, all through East Hills, all through Homewood, down through East Liberty, Shady Side, Bloomfield, then into town, Oakland, and then into town. That's the only bus we have. And it takes you about 2 hours if you live in Penn Hills. It's going to take you about 2 hours. So we definitely need an expansion. We definitely want more bus routes out here. We definitely need more shuttle service out here. We have senior citizens that are still independent but can't do anything because They may not have a family member to drive them around. They may have to wait on the access bus. How often can they get that access bus? So we definitely are looking into expanding transportation and being advocates to bring that into the community.
Yeah.
We
No,
have a
well,
lot of people who are college. We have some people who are college students that are like they. I was talking to a gentleman the other day. He said, "I'm a college student, and I have to catch the bus to Pitt." So it's like, wow. And he's like, "I only bus I can catch is that 77, or he'll take two buses. Get off in Wilkinsburg and catch the express bus to Oakland." So we would definitely welcome
yeah.
expansion. I would advocate heavily for that and bring that into this region.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I think I mentioned the negative aspect of it only because transportation infrastructure, becoming better is oftentimes a precursor to, price increases, right? And I think that's something to keep an eye on, but that's more so about gentrification and battling against that,
Right.
which, frankly, you look at the Allegheny Valley, right? That's one of the few areas outside of the city of Pittsburgh that has really strong, car infrastructure, right? 28 runs right through it all, right? And below that, you have Route 8, right? So there's a
Mhm.
lot of potential um, as the city becomes more expensive for the Allegheny Valley, to become an area that is also, kind of pricey, right? Similar to how certain parts of like I don't know if you have any viewers like from like Atlanta, parts outside the city that are really expensive, and so it's really important to be thinking about this. But
Mhm.
next question. Gun violence is an issue that's it's not unique to any particular zip code or area.
Right.
We've talked about throughout this interview about Penn Hills and how it's had its fair share. Um, you mentioned space being one issue, but like, what do you view as being the root cause of gun violence in your community, and what can sort of be done in tandem with community to prohibit the conditions that even lead to the gun violence?
Wow. Prohibit the conditions that lead to gun violence. I think, I was talking to our Democratic committee, and a similar question was asked. And I told them, I said, I believe, my personal belief is it really, really starts in the home. It starts with that foundational structure, in the home. Is your kid sitting at home all day watching TV? What are you doing? What are you implanting into that child's mind? What are they watching? What are they spending their time doing? That's why part of the reason that I want to create the safe spaces, create the recreational centers, to give them something to do, to broaden their horizons. Everyone has a gift, everyone has a talent, and so we want to encourage them to utilize their gifts and to utilize their talents. But violence, um, like you said, no area is all areas are subject to a lot of violence, some violence. But I think in Penn Hills, how do we get a handle on that? How do we get a hold on that? We go out and we get in front of it, and we let the community know we are here. Let the community know we do have resources to help. Those families not only that have been affected by it, but how do we prevent that? We get. I think someone said to me, "We got to get them while they're young." Well, what about the kids who aren't young anymore? So there is prevention, but there is also, that those kids who, my sons haven't lost friends yet to any type of violence. But by the time I was their age, I had lost several friends. And so it takes a toll on my mental health. I think mental health is a part of the issue. Emotional stress. They don't know how to deal with stress. They don't know how to deal with pressures. It's not easy to walk away from a fight, but how do we teach these kids or these individuals, to process what is happening, and to, I tell people all the time, your response to the situation is going to determine the outcome. So how do we teach them to respond and become proactive as opposed to becoming reactive? And I think, that is one of the measures and one of the precautions that we want to take. Mentorship really helps. We need more mentors. We need more men. I deal with, like I said, I deal with a lot of the kids all the time. I'm with them. I just left a whole bunch of them, right? And so one of the things that we want to look at is, the kids always say to me, Miss Buckner, I don't want to talk to him or I don't want to talk to her because I'm usually referring mentors. Well, they don't know what I've been through, so how can they relate to me? You can't tell someone that ice cream is sweet and you never tasted it. Kids aren't going to walk up to someone that they think hasn't been through what they've been through. A lot of the young girls, they relate to me because of the emotional distress, because of things of that nature. So they also need people that are relatable. There's a program that I wanted to do that I'm working on actually with a certain motorcycle club to bring them into the school. So instead of the kids seeing the police, guess what? They're a motorcycle club, but they are a wonderful group of men. All of them, 90% of them own businesses in Penn Hills, and all of them are fathers in the Penn Hill School District. So what do they see when they see a familiar face? And guess what? All of these men have stories. They
Yeah.
all have stories. They all have a background, but they can see that there's beauty for ashes. We want the kids to see, hey, guess what? There's beauty for ashes. And we want them to be comfortable with coming to us, with talking to us. We have to be relatable. We can't just say, oh, we want to do this and not do it. They want to see actions behind the words. They don't get that right now.
Hmm.
So that's,
Yeah.
I hope I answered your question.
No, you
These are
did.
some
You did.
loaded questions. And I'm like, man, I could go on and on and on and on and on. And I'm trying to be respectful of the time, but wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and we have some time here. Our hard stop is at 15, but um, you know, this kind of goes back to the last question, which I'm realizing now that like the subconscious is very powerful. But I damn near said the next question. Um, but from an economic standpoint, Penn Hills has the advantage of being next to the city, but also being an anchor of the Allegheny Valley, right? Um, as Penn Hills continues to grow and more people move, how can you leverage this to, the community's benefit? And when I say community, I don't mean like the theoretical community that'll
Mhm.
exist, then. I mean the community that exists now.
Right.
Yeah.
How can we leverage?
Penn Hill's position, right? Just being next to the city, but also being
Oh
next
yeah,
to,
I was. I'm excited about building relationships. I'm excited about building partnerships, creating partnerships. With the city, with the Mon Valley. I've met some wonderful, wonderful people. When I win this race, I'll be the first Black mayor ever in the municipality of Penn Hills. We have Mayor Ed Gainey, the first Black mayor ever in the city of Pittsburgh. We have Jaleesa McDonald, the first Black mayor ever of Rankin. We have Dewan Walker, first Black mayor ever of Aliquippa. We have Dr. Jones, first Black mayor of Beaver County. There's so many of us, and we are all working to partner. I'm looking forward to joining that regimen of mayors and creating relationships that can help restore our communities and build bigger and better and stronger communities for our people. So it's not, oh, we're Penn Hill, oh, we're Pittsburgh. No, we're a community as a whole. So I'm looking forward to building those relationships and bridging those gaps and seeing how we can be of service and how they can be to them and how they can be of service to us.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you for that answer.
You're
And
welcome.
you talked about this earlier a little bit, and this is why I think this interview is going well. Because you already are in the mindset of improving transparency. Um, Local government, in particular in Allegheny County, is not known for being the most transparent. And I say that being from, the Upper Mon Valley. So, um, how will you work not just to change that perception, but also to keep the community informed and engaged, when you win, if you win.
When I win, one of the things that the community wants to know is where's the money? Where's the money going? But I'm okay with understanding a budget of $70 million. I've had to do it before. I've looked at budgets. I own my own company. I have experience working on political campaigns and looking at money and budgets and things of that nature. So we want to make sure that the community not just knows what's going on, but they have an explanation. A lot of people don't understand the budget. So, a lot of times you're in meetings and they're like, what does this mean? Help us. And so We want to be transparent in every aspect. We want them to know, hey, if we don't know, we can get the answer for you. If it's not here, we can get it. Being full transparent, and not just being transparent, but being accountable. Being accountable, because we're not going to always get it right. We're not going to always get it right, but we have to be accountable for our mistakes. And once it's a mistake, it then becomes a learned action, and so we learn from it, and then that we take that learning experience, we gain wisdom, and we grow from it. So that's a part of being transparent, and that's a part of being accountable. We have to be accountable to our community in every aspect.
Yeah.
If they need something from us, if they have a question, not ignoring their question. If we don't know, say we don't know, but we can find it. How can we help you find it? Is there a resource that we can provide? If we're not providing it, let's look into how we can provide this resource. Transparency. We are in a deficit. This is why. This is how. This is where this money is going. We got an $18 million stimulus in the municipality of Penn Hills. Where's it at? Nobody's been talking about it. Let's talk about it. The stimulus, I read the grant. People don't realize that. That's a couple thousand pages. I read the grant.
Yeah.
So guess what? The money's not being used for what it's supposed to be used for.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a part of being transparent, letting
Yeah.
people know, hey, this money came from the grant. This is where it's at. This is how much we got left. We have to spend it by 2026. So
Yeah.
that's transparency. That's the stuff we're going to talk about and do, and make sure that the community is aware of everything from A to Z.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for that answer. And you know, sort of in that same vein, right? You talked about accepting accountability from your community. How do you plan on holding, actors, whether that's corporate, whether that's governmental, whether that's, another sort of actor? How do you plan on holding folks who have a lot of power in your community accountable, even when doing so might send in direct, um, you know, collision with your own self-interest?
Hmm. I mean, you put people. How can I say this politically correct? You put people. Um, you ask the right questions. You talk about it. You you don't you demand action from your community leaders. You ask the questions why, and there are five simple questions: who, what, when, where, why. Actually, six: how. You know, you put it on Front Street. For me, and I don't know if this question is stemming from when I become mayor or right now as just someone who's running for the office. You know, I feel like, you know, being present in the community, showing up, that's called being accountable, letting the people know who you are. There's no way a person in this community, whether they're white, black, Asian, no one should say, who is the current mayor? No one should say, I didn't know we had a mayor. No one. Because this is a municipality at the local level. Our local leaders need to be present. And I'm making them accountable now by standing up to the plate and saying, I am running for the office of mayor of Penn Hills. So now you have to step up to the plate
Yeah.
and be accountable to your positions. Because now you have someone who's coming in saying, okay, I'm questioning this, I'm questioning that. Now you have to be accountable. Now you have to be transparent. So one way to make my leaders accountable is by doing what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
lending my voice, and being present in this community, standing up and serving this community by saying, we can't do this no more. We need change. We want solutions. We want to thrive again.
100%. 100%. Um, so we're about to wrap up here, and before we do this, I just want to thank you again for coming on here and for being vulnerable with us.
Mhm.
Today these are not questions that we send our candidates ahead of time. These are all sort of rapid
Yeah.
fire on the spot. So thank you for coming here and being with us tonight. Um, our last question before we close out: what brings you joy? And what in particular about your community brings you joy?
What brings me joy? My babies, my sons, Kevin and Corey, they bring me so much joy. What about my community brings me joy is being able to serve them in a way, especially our young people, in a way to where their questions are answered, their problems are solved, there are solutions that the solutions that they require and that they need. I love, hugging the moms and say, wow, your story is my story. I get joy and, hearing them say, thank you for doing this because you are the face of Penn Hill. I get joy when the young people say I've inspired them. I get joy when you hear the young girls say, wow, if you could do that, then I want to do this. They don't have to, it doesn't necessarily have to be political office. There was one young girl who was afraid to go into engineering. She was like, well, if you can do this and it's a challenge, and then I can definitely be an engineer and it's a challenge. So just those are the things that bring me joy. I know I'm in the right place. I know I'm walking the right path. I know, like I said, being accountable, being present, and just showing up, having a heart to serve. I get joy out of serving every single day. It's one of the hardest places to be, but it's also one of the most rewarding places for me is being able to serve others.
Well, thank you, man, and that's very clear from your answers, and very clear from you just being here tonight. So,
Thank
um,
you.
yeah, um, thank you again for joining us tonight. Again, for those watching, this is Miss Qiana Buckner. She is running for mayor of Penn Hills. So if you are in the municipality of Penn Hills, which, as you said,
Yes.
is the second biggest municipality, in Allegheny County, that is a fact. I know those of us who are from McKeesport love to say that we're the second biggest city, which is true. But we are a city, not a municipality. So Penn Hills is huge.
Yes.
May 16th is the in-person election date.
Yes.
Um, of course, if you have requested a mail-in ballot, you want to do that. You want to send that back as soon as you can. Um, as you see at the bottom of the screen, the last day to request a mail-in ballot or absentee ballot is May 9th. So you have a little bit of time, but don't wait till the last minute. You never know when you're going to get your ballot and be able to return it back. The last day to register to vote, if you know any unregistered friends, is May 1st. So this is quote unquote an off year, but there's no such thing. So if you are in Penn Hills and you're interested in building power and making it a better place for Black people, make sure you come out and you vote on May 16th. Um, Thank you for joining us. Qiana, do you have any parting words?
Actually, my parting word was just that: go out and vote, vote, vote. Um, May 16th is the primary. We want to win. Not only do we need to win, we excuse me, we want to win this primary. It's so important. A lot of times, so for so long, we have been made to think that in this municipality, our vote doesn't matter. If you are not registered to vote in Penn Hills, but you live in Penn Hills, go please register to vote. The last day to register is May 1st. The primary is May 16th. You'll see me knocking doors. You'll see me standing in front of businesses. We are hosting some meet and greets. If you see me, say hello to me. I love to talk, as you can tell. So come up to me. We can have a conversation if you have any questions. Our website is KianaBucknerForMayor.com. We have a Facebook page, Qiana Buckner for Mayor, as well as an Instagram page at Qiana Buckner for Mayor. Come out and vote. I would love to see your faces. We do have a fundraiser more on the 22nd of April. So if you want to give to the campaign, you can donate on our website or even on through one of our pages, social media pages. But we do have a big fundraiser for the community of Penn Hills coming up on April the 22nd with some great people, some big name people. That information will be coming out soon. I would love to see your smiling faces just to come and hang out with us and get this win on May 16th. We're going for the primary. That's our goal.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much again to Ms. Kiana Buckner for joining us tonight. I'm Ross Tedder, Civic Engagement Coordinator at One Hood Power. Join us next week at the same time for our forum for PPS School Board. We have Devon Taliaferro and Ron Soko joining us. That should be a good spirited debate. So thank you all again, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
All right.